The first part of the question is defining who the scholars are. What has happened is there are a group of brothers, like you said. There's no doubt that our deen encourages us to take from the ulama. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. So there are a lot of things about our religion that we don't know. It's our obligation at that point, if we're not from the people of ijtihad or from the students of knowledge who can go back and study the issues for themselves, then you have to go to somebody whose knowledge you respect, whose God consciousness and taqwa you respect, and you go to them and you ask them, okay? Oh, the concept, and the Prophet ﷺ has, many ahadith that talk about the virtue of the scholars. This is something that is undeniable. I would hope that no Muslim denies the virtue of the scholars. The problem is when we get a group of people who champion that, but then they define for everybody else who the scholars are. So the scholars are the people who they have a connection with. And the point is to monopolize authenticity of dawah. So no dawah is authentic unless we've sanctioned it. And we sanction it. We have that ability to sanction. We are the accrediting body that sanctions whether or not this dawah is correct or not. We are the accrediting body because we have been given that authority by the scholars. Well, the question is, who gave you the right to determine for the people in the West that these are the scholars? Okay, this is the first question. There's a very important point here, and it's not to deny the scholarship of the ones that they are saying are scholars, because they may or may not be. That's not really my issue here. Why are they the only scholars that we can refer to? And if we go outside of those 4 or 5 who they have determined and declared to be the scholars, then we are not going back to the right scholars or whatever their situation may be. So I mean that the first part of their logic that's flawed is that they are trying to tell us who the scholars are, when in fact the scholars of Islam have recognized many more people, and some of them more prominently than the ones that they have set up to be scholars in the West, without going into any names. All right, so that's the first. That's the first thing that has to be dealt with. The second thing is that there's almost a degree of self-hate that is involved in that, or a lack of self-worth. If we look at it, every other country, besides us gullible Western brothers, every other country has their own scholars. They may not be on the level of the scholars here who have dedicated their entire lives to the study of Islam. But if you go to Nigeria, there are scholars. If you go to Senegal, there are scholars. If you go to Pakistan, there are scholars. India, there are scholars, so on and so forth, right? So we have gotten to the point that we can't even recognize our own scholarship. That there may perhaps be people in the United States of America who can answer a large amount of the questions that we have. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to answer every question, or that they're from the kibar ulama or to the end of it. But that's not the condition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid down in the Quran or from the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The person needs to know about what they're talking about. It doesn't mean they have to be from the kibar ulama where they are what we would call encyclopedic in their knowledge, right? No, but if you ask them about Islamic finance, they can answer that. If you ask them about ibadat, then this person can answer that. But what's happened is we've denied our own scholarship, in the name of propping up these other scholars, or in the name of respecting these other scholars. And so as such, we turn our backs on the fact that, hey, maybe we need to be further supporting our own scholars. And again, scholarship is of different levels, and maybe this person is not a scholar, but he's a solid student of knowledge who can deal with this particular, contemporary issue that has come up. Or we have bodies of scholars, because we have, in the West, we have certain bodies of scholars who, when they get together, I think that their scholarship is noteworthy. It's something that should at least be taken into consideration, and we shouldn't just ignore the fact, that we do have some people of knowledge among us in the West who can help deal with some of these issues. So I think that diversion tactic that is used is because it is profitable to the people who use it. And I'm not saying that I'm not talking about intention here, that every single person that says, hey, you need to follow the scholars, that this is their idea, that they're looking for something outside of what they really believe is the truth. But I'm keenly aware that there are some that definitely profit from the fact that they seem to have this monopoly on what is authentic dawah.